In today's video, I'm making a dress, although I'm not making the whole dress in the video. All I wanted to do on this video was show you how to install a concealed zip. I'm using a different method than I'm used to, and I want to see how I get on. I've got this very simple dress. You can excuse the pattern, it's been well used. I've made 3 dresses out of this, but I've used a standard zip. And for this fabric, I thought I'd go for a concealed zip this time. So I'm going to use a different from traditional method of installing a concealed zip. What I usually do is install each side first and then sew the 2 pieces, the back panels first. So what I've done in preparation of this is I've sewn the bottom half as the pattern says, and continued on and finished the slit at the bottom. But now I've reinforced, can you see? I've reinforced the edges of the upper part of the back panels, there they are, with some interfacing. And I'm going to sew a long basting stitch along there. And that's going to be the longest stitch my sewing machine allows, so that I can unpick it after the zip's installed. So this is an installation kind of concealed zip, a different method to what I've used traditionally. And I want to see if I get the same results or even better results with the zip not showing at the bottom. Sometimes you get a little pucker, just a tiny one, but it gives it away that there's a zip in there. So let's see if this method works. So set it to the longest length, and on this machine the longest length goes up to 5mm. So each stitch will be 5mm long. I sometimes use a seam guide, magnet guide, along my on the machine. Not always, but I do find it's useful when you want to do tricky things, and I tend not to use pins. If you're a pin user, go ahead and use your pins. I don't like using pins, particularly for areas where we're putting fastenings, because it tends to bunch up the fabric and you end up with a wavy zip at the end of it. Or you can baste it using a hand stitch, but we're basting it anyway with a long running stitch, just making sure that ends are matching. And oops, slipped out. Let's try that again. Let's go. No lock stitch this time. Just separating up here because it's quite a long piece. And because I've got a tripod in my way, and you can see I've got a pin here to tell me where the end of the top part is, and I'll meet the bottom part. And I'll cut off there. Okay, so there I've done the bottom in white so you can see the basting stitches there. So now what we need to do is spread that open and lay our zip on top. And it's quite a nice jazzy fabric, so you can see why I don't want to get this wrong. So open up the seam. So once you've opened this seam up, you can lay your zip on this. Give your fabric a tug to make sure there's no fabric gathering underneath that area, and only do this if you've got a cotton or you're not overheating your fabric. Okay, that's done. So here's the zip. It's a good length, slightly shorter than I need it, but that's fine. It will still go over. So what I will do is open the zip first and then press the coils away from the sides so they sort of sit perpendicular to the fabric, and that allows the zip, the needle, to get right under the zip coils. There we go. And the other side. It's really rather tricky when the zip keeps moving about. There we go. So just press that and get right in, stuck in there. And then when you close the zip, it's a little bit tougher to see, but can you see how it sort of made the zip stand up a little bit? All right, so that means we've definitely done the job. And we need to lay the zip good side down, and we want to make sure that we line the zip centre with the seam. So we'll pin that in place and then we'll hand baste that. And then when I get to the end, I'll just do a small loop in the same place. And leave that long. I'll do the same on the other side of the tape. Okay, so now the basting's been done, you can see it's all in. What I need to do, so I've got the running stitch, I've made sure I've not sewn it to the main body of the dress, I've only sewn it to the seam allowance. What I need to do now is remove the basting stitch that held the two pieces of the back together. So if I pull that back up, make it easier for myself, and then just pull out these stitches that I did on the machine. Right, so when you've removed all the basting, the machine basting, what you want to do is flip your dress over. So what you can see now is the opening where the fabric was sewn together, and it should meet perfectly every time now, as long as the zip's sewn in close to the seam edge. So we need to make sure we sew along that seam edge. So you need to make sure your zip foot gets that close. So what we do now is open the zip. So pull the zip down, and we'll go back to the other method of placing a zip in, a concealed zip in, by sewing the two sides separately. Now, the only thing here is you don't want that pull in the way. So what you can do is, because I have a zip slightly longer than I need it to be and I basted all the way down, what I can do is hide that zip pull inside the seam there, but then just keep sliding it down, and I've just pulled on the back of the zip, and you can see there inside the seam where that seam finishes up there. Okay, so what we'll do now is sew these two sides individually. So take it back to the machine like that, and then make sure that I get close to those zip teeth underneath there, right to the coils, so that it sits almost exactly to the seam there. And when that's done, when it closes up, both sides should meet. So let's go ahead and do that. So I have a special foot here. This is a zip foot, but rather than the zip foot having the tab in the middle, it's slightly onto one side, and the reason is I can get my concealed zip coils very close to that notch, and if I can get them close to the notch, it means I can get the needle really close to the coils. And then so right up close there, and I can move the needle slightly over, make sure it's going to hit where I need it to, and do up a little bit. I think we can go even closer, and then start. Way. And right underneath the coils there. And just stitch beyond the stitches of the skirt underneath, and then go lock that. And it's come out absolutely perfect. Even that puckering that you usually get down at the bottom is invisible. There is nothing there to give it away that there is a zip in this dress.